as a person who didn't know much, finding out a lot after the situation, there's questions that I'm like, yo, like, through it all, you still was smiling. Like, this is the person who you know, day to day, every day around each other 24/7. And she's still, hey, you all right? Oh, yeah, I'm good. And then we shared moments like, hey, you good? Come on, let's go. Like those runs to different, like we needed each other. It was like iron sharpens iron. So dare I allow any narrative to be what I know it to be. And I'm just so grateful that you are who I expected you to be. You know what I'm saying? Because that would have been lame as hell. I was like, man, that motherfucker Marion.
Well, I mean, let me touch on really quick the idea that in it all, through it all, what you shared about being that face of women's sport for that generation, for that time. I've been most encouraged by, I'll tell you, by our people through it all, no matter where I go. People will come up to me and they will share. Well, first of all, you know, we'll hug.
Yeah.
No matter where I go, I'm like the little sister or the big sister. Because they've seen me grow up in front of the camera. They've lived it all with me. And so it's personal for them. It was personal when it happened. And I find that there is a definite difference in the reaction from like our people with everything I've been through versus everybody else, right? In that,
explain.
I find that people of color took it personal in a way whereby they didn't feel slighted by me. They felt slighted that I was taken advantage of, that I was used as an example in a negative way, and they prayed and loved me through it all.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that everybody who is not a person of color,
For sure.
right?
For sure.
But I definitely have sensed a difference in, like, you're my people. You were my people then. Yeah. When you were in it, you were still my people. And you know what? Even more so now.
Yeah, we got you.
I got you. And that has been very encouraging. Because there are moments that are still hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't allow myself too often to go back to that time. Consequences are hard. I mean, I was in prison for 6 months, Cam. I was 49 days in solitary confinement, right? And the idea that for making just one poor choice at the young age of 20 plus years old, right? And people who are so judgmental in all of it, I ask them a lot of times, like, you tell me what you were doing at 20, right?
And do you think the same?
Right? And not only that, but did you have millions of dollars? Were you the face of sport, the American golden child, like all this pressure, right? And then they'll still try and come back. And I'm like, no, take that for a moment and see. And 49 days solitary confinement. But you know what? I also turn around and say, I'm grateful for it all. People are like, what, man? How are you grateful for it all? Because it forced me, one, to prioritize my life.
Yeah.
Right? That it really is not about the money or the fame. And you could easily get caught into that world. And that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's about, like, are you helping people to be better?
Yeah.
To be smarter, to be able to handle the economy, to be able to put food on their table. And really, if we're being honest, running from here to there very fast is not really doing that. Even throwing a football from here it's not really doing that, right? What in your life are you inspiring people to do bigger and better, right? Like what you're doing now, Cam. Like I have so much respect, even more so now, with who you've become as a man, more so than what you did on the football field, right? And that is saying a lot. Right. And I would hope that is when people see my story, that's what they get out of all this.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to the people who, no matter the age, you still have to make the the notion of, okay, I know what I'm doing, right? And it's like, how did you get to that point, right? Where did you ever think you were doing anything bad? Because that's like, for me, like as I'm prepping for this, I'm like, yo, like, that's not who I know. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if you put 3 faces up there and you know these people and you now put up what they were known for, not in a million years would I say or attach these things to you, right? So from the viewer who may say, well, you still did it, right? The asshole who may ask that question, even the curiosity for me, and we could take this as an educational moment, but how and what did that look like for you to say, this how it was presented?
Yeah.
And whatever.
You know, well, first of all, we'll start with the idea that you'll never change an asshole's mind, right? Like they are who they are. And you could spend a lot of time trying to, it's a waste of time, right? So at almost the age of 50 now, I don't waste time on the X's and O's, but I do know that during that time, like I always, from the age of 9, I grew up in California, Cam, and that's where I saw my first Olympics at the age of 9. 84, the Olympics came to LA. And I knew that it's what I wanted. I wanted to be great in sport. And I happened to realize, running around with my older brother, that I was talented.
Yeah.
And I figured out pretty quickly that I was more than just that, right? Like I was just, gifted. Could run faster than anybody else. Like I'm stronger, and even more so, like I had a mindset about me that was unlike any other little kid, right? I was willing to sacrifice. I worked hard. You put genetics with that, success is going to happen.
Correct.
But then you get older and you start becoming more successful and more successful. And I found that I was surrounding myself with people who were, as we know, yes people, right? People that'll say yes to whatever you say.
Anything.
Pat you on the back. You so great, Cam. You so great. Even when you're making the worst decision, it's still a good decision.
Yeah, I see what you do.
Right? And I found myself being pulled or going, I like to call it into the wave in the ocean, right? Where you have cut off all ties to reality, which is the shore, right? The reality is my mama, my family who know me, right? And who will say, you know what, Marion? That's not a good choice, right? But because I cut those ties, I like being around the yes people, right? Tell me anything. I had no real, of reality.
Yeah.
And so made the choice to surround myself with a group of people and relied on them for certain things, right? Is this good? Yes. Is this good? Yes, right? And ultimately, what I was being given, what I was being told was not the truth. But because I can make a lot of money for everybody around me, that's what I was told. I made the poor choice, is when I was confronted with it by the man, federal investigators, in the blink of an eye, Cam, when they pushed something across the table, and it was something that I had recognized that I had been given prior to the Olympics, I thought about that little girl at the age of 9, right, who wanted to become famous, that little girl at the age of 13 who thought, you know what, my mom, who's from this small country in Central America, came up here at the age of 18 to have a better life for herself and her 2 kids. I'm not going to let my mama down, right? And so because of that, when I recognized what I was being shown, I said to myself, oh, crap, oh, shit. Yeah. If I tell them the truth that it is this performance-enhancing drug, that everything I had hoped for and dreamed for would be taken away from me. So in the span, Cam, of 30 seconds, I told them, I don't know what that is. I've never seen it. I've never been given it. I've never taken it, right? And pushed it back across the table. In the span of 30 seconds at the age of 23 years old. And that created everything right from there. People don't know this. People think that I spent 6 months in prison and 49 days in solitary because I took performance-enhancing drugs, which is not the case. Prior to meeting with federal investigators, I signed what's called a Queen for a Day letter. A lot of people don't know this. Queen for a Day letter, in essence, they still have it, where they will talk to people about what they might know about a situation, whether you've murdered somebody, stolen something. But if you sign this letter, you will answer their questions truthfully no matter what, and then you won't be prosecuted.
Is that anonymity? Is that what they call it?
I don't think it's the same thing.
Right.
But I signed that letter prior because I had nothing to hide.
Right.
Nothing to hide. So I signed the letter, and then in the midst of it all, I lied. And so that's how they were able to turn it around, and I was found guilty of 2 counts of lying to federal investigators.
So, hold on, take me, because I'm kind of confused.
Mm-hmm.
The federal investigation happened, and then you had the Queen's question?
No. Prior to being invited by them to share my knowledge, if I had any, of performance-enhancing drugs, when I says, yeah, I'll come and I'll talk because I don't have anything to hide.
But before this, you had already been...
It had been in the news, a lot of athletes.
Okay.
Right? And this particular performance-enhancing drug, right? Back then it's called the Clear, right? Well, even before then, let's back up a little bit so I can give a little bit of perspective. A lot of athletes during that time, they were getting their supplements from the GNCs of the world, right? Or any other supplement company.
Any over-the-counter situation.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
And when you're an elite athlete, you have no control, if you do that, over what might be tainted. If something in a lab is tainted and potentially you could test positive, right? And so what a lot of elite athletes were doing, they were hiring outside companies. Nutritionists, companies that do this, as well as me, right? So my team and we hired a company that were gonna make my supplements, and I can be insured, in essence, that I was clean, that I was safe, because I believe in a drug-free sport.
To bring that into perspective, and I'm not to cut you off, just for the viewer, it is what you call a sports performance coach. They have it. Every team has that person, and that sports performance coach could, number one, it'd be a pliability coach. They'll also be mixed with nutritionists, supplements. They have this whole anatomy of the human body of what should you do pre-workout, post-workout, the foods that you're supposed to eat, the vitamins that you're supposed to eat. So that and understanding where the time that I played sports, when you played sports, the expectations was different from athletes, right? So
and I was the fastest woman in the world. I was the most elite athlete in the world at that time, and could not take a chance that all of that would be lost. So we hired this company, and they were making supplements, and they were the ones, this particular company, were the ones that started to create this particular performance-enhancing drugs, right? And well, in my case, because I can't speak for any of the other athletes, but based off of what I've heard, they were, in essence, selling it to them just like they were selling it to me, that it was something else, right? Now, whether my coach or my team knew about it or not, I don't know. But was told to me that it was something, I took it. Took it plenty, right? Prior to the games, during the games, after the games. And throughout all that time, I was also the most tested athlete in the world, right? So what this particular company was doing was creating a way for it to be disguised during the test. So that's why they called it the Clear. And so didn't test positive at all. Right? So that when I was asked by federal investigators to come in and sit down with them, heck yeah, I can come in and I can talk to them. I have nothing to hide. And so that's why when my attorney says, hey, this is what this letter is, you sign this, nothing, cool, let me sign it, right? And then we get in the room, and 2 hours of questioning turned into like almost an interrogation. Like they knew, right, that I was telling a lie, right? And they finally pulled something out of their bag, Cam, threw it across the table, says, "We know you know what this is." And as soon as they did, I thought to myself, I know what this is, right?
But with this, was this a pill? Was this a syringe?
No, it was a clear liquid in a little vial, right? Which something that I had taken like orally for months, right? And was told it was a type of flaxseed oil. It looks like some type of fish oil,
Okay.
right? And so they threw it across the table and realized, yeah, I'd taken that.
Yeah.
But realized that was what had been in the news. That was the clear.
That was the thing that people were identifying as
that all these big athletes were getting in trouble with. And I thought, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Did you have this sense of, oh shit, I fucked up instantly? Or did it take time for the sanctions to kind of come down?
Well, I had the sense that, I'm going to lie my way out of this.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to lie. I'm going to tell them I don't know what it is. I've never taken it. And hey, I haven't tested positive anyway, so I'm going to still carry this out.
Yeah.
But then the miracle of childbirth happens. And I realize that everything that you say and don't say can and will affect your kids one day. And I'm telling my sons at that point, my two oldest are boys, and I'm telling them, all right, once you make a poor choice, you got to come clean.
Integrity.
Right? Yeah. And then I would tell them this, Cam, and I would turn around, look in the mirror, and I'd say, wow, you are quite the hypocrite. Right? And at some point, right, this is all going to come and bite you in the ass. So what can you do about it? All right? You could take that chance and come clean, and you probably will lose a lot, but they're worth it, right? And so however many years later, this was, 5-6 year gap in between when I had that meeting with federal investigators until when I was found guilty in a court of law of lying to federal investigators. About 4 or 5 years, and I was competing, and by that point I had distanced myself from the coaches and from that company and all, but I was still living with this burden and this heaviness, and knowing that these young people whom I'm like doing my best to raise to be good human beings are going to be affected by this lie.
So take me through the process of you coming clean. Mm-hmm. Did somebody have this sit down with you, or you said, hey, I have to tell?
No, it had overtaken my world in that I'm still competing.
Okay.
And I'm still the fastest woman in the world, but every time I am in a press conference or in an interview and they ask questions about this, that, like this lie is compounding and multiplying and quadrupling, and it's just heavy and heavy and heavy. And then I'm looking at my kids and I'm saying, you got to do right. You got to do better. You got to come clean. You got to tell me when you make a poor choice. The consequences are going to be immediately, but you deal with it.
Right.
And then I'm going into the press conference and I'm lying, right? And enough was enough. Enough was enough. It just, I was ready to be that mother that my mother was to me.